Krishna, everybody. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books here in the live studios at 3402 Radha Lane, 77018. That's Houston, Texas, right next to Sri Sri Radha Nilamadava's beautiful temple. And welcome to all of you out there in cyberspace. Welcome to all of you, Rasika Bhaktas here in Houston. The cream of the crop is here tonight to hear the Srimad-Bhagavatam. We're going to hear the rest of the story about how Dhruva Maharaj went back to Godhead. But before we hear that, we're going to hear Sanatana Goswami's prayer glorifying the Srimad-Bhagavatam. It's called Srimad-Bhagavatam Mahima Stotram, and it goes like this: Sarva Shastra Dipiyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwan Duditaditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Shri Krishna himself. Marika Bando Matsangin Madguru Man Mahadana Man Nisadaka Madbhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadutadayin atini chochatakara hanamuncha gadachin mam premna rit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So Maitreya Muni is continuing to explain to Vidura the history of Dhruva Maharaj. And that sound? Maybe there's that. Yeah, that door could be shut. Although it does get close in here, but still the noise is too much. Yes, thank you. For the recording, we'll do a little austerity. We're not Dhruva Maharaj, but we can do this austerity. Hare Krishna. Okay. Maitreya Muni is explaining to Vidura what happened when Dhruva Maharaj went to the forest. And we've just heard how he perfected again his devotional service in the line of Ashtanga Yoga. But now it's filled with bhakti. Text 18, chapter 12, text 4. Dhruva Maharaj goes back to Godhead. Because of his transcendental bliss, incessant tears flowed from his eyes. His heart melted, and there was shivering and standing of the hairs all over his body. Thus transformed in a trance of devotional service, Dhruva Maharaj completely forgot his bodily existence, and thus he immediately became liberated from material bondage. Purport. Due to constant engagement in devotional service, hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping the deity, etc., as prescribed in 9 varieties, there are different symptoms which appear in the body of a devotee. These 8 bodily transformations, which indicate that a devotee is already liberated within himself, are called Ashta Sattvika Vikar. When a devotee completely forgets his bodily existence, he should be understood to be liberated. He is no longer encaged in the body. The example is given that when a coconut becomes completely dry, the coconut pulp within the coconut shell separates from the bondage of the shell and the outer covering. By moving the dry coconut, one can hear that the pulp within is no longer attached to the shell or to the covering. Similarly, when one is fully absorbed in devotional service, he is completely disconnected from the 2 material coverings, the subtle and gross bodies. Dhruva Maharaj actually attained this stage of life by constantly discharging devotional service. He has already been described as a Mahabhagavata, for unless one becomes a Mahabhagavata, or a first-class pure devotee, these symptoms are not visible. Lord Chaitanya exhibited all these symptoms. Haridas Thakur also exhibited them, and there are many pure devotees who manifested such bodily symptoms. They are not to be imitated, but when one is actually advanced, these symptoms are exhibited. At that time it is to be understood that a devotee is materially free. Of course, from the beginning of devotional service, the path of liberation immediately opens, just as the coconut taken from the tree immediately begins to dry. It simply takes some time for the shell and pulp to separate from one another. An important word in this verse is mukta linga. Mukta means liberated, and linga means the subtle body. When a man dies, he quits the gross body, but the subtle body of mind, intelligence, and ego carries him to a new body. While existing in the present body, the same subtle body carries him from one stage of life to another. For example, from childhood to boyhood, by mental development. The mental condition of a baby is different from that of a boy. The mental condition of a boy is different from that of a young man, and the mental condition of a young man is different from that of an old man. So at death, the process of changing bodies takes place due to the subtle body. The mind, intelligence, and ego carry the soul from one gross body to another. This is called transmigration of the soul. But there is another stage, when one becomes liberated, even from the subtle body. At that time, the living entity is competent and fully prepared to be transferred to the transcendental or spiritual world. The description of the bodily symptoms of Sri Dhruva Maharaj makes it apparent that he became perfectly fit to be transferred to the spiritual world. One can experience the distinction between the subtle and gross bodies, even daily. In a dream, one's gross body is lying on the bed, while the subtle body carries the soul, the living entity, to another atmosphere. But when the gross body has to be because the gross body has to be continued, the subtle body comes back and settles in the present gross body. Therefore, one has to become free from the subtle body also. This freedom is known as mukta linga. Text 19. As soon as the symptoms of his liberation were manifest, he saw a very beautiful airplane coming down from the sky, as if the brilliant full moon were coming down. Haribol, Haribol. As if the brilliant full moon were coming down, illuminating all the 10 directions. Purport. There are different levels of acquired knowledge. Direct knowledge, knowledge received from authorities, transcendental knowledge, knowledge beyond the senses, and finally, spiritual knowledge. When one surpasses the stage of acquiring knowledge by the descending process, he is immediately situated on the transcendental platform. Dhruva Maharaj, being liberated from the material concept of life, was situated in transcendental knowledge and could perceive the presence of a transcendental airplane, which was as brilliant as the full moonlight. This is not possible in the stages of direct or indirect perception of knowledge. Such knowledge is a special favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can, however, rise to this platform of knowledge by the gradual process of advancing in devotional service or Krishna consciousness. Text 20. Dhruva Maharaj saw two very beautiful associates of Lord Vishnu in the plain. They had 4 hands and a blackish bodily luster, and they were youthful. They were very youthful, and their eyes were just like reddish lotus flowers. They held clubs in their hands, and they were dressed in very attractive garments with helmets, and were decorated with necklaces, bracelets, and earrings. Purport. The inhabitants of Vishnu Loka are of the same bodily feature as Lord Vishnu, and they also hold club, conch shell, lotus flower, and disc. In this verse it is distinctly stated that they had 4 hands and were nicely dressed. The description of their bodily decorations corresponds exactly to that of Vishnu. So the 2 uncommon personalities who descended from the airplane came directly from Vishnu Loka, or the planet where Lord Vishnu lives. Hare Krishna, Uncle John. Hare Bo. Text 21 wasn't complete without you. Text 21. Dhruva Maharaj, seeing that these uncommon personalities were direct servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, immediately stood up. But being puzzled, in hastiness, he forgot how to receive them in the proper way. Therefore he simply offered obeisances with folded hands, and chanted and glorified the holy names of the Lord. Purport. Chanting of the holy names of the Lord is perfect in every way. When Dhruva Maharaj saw the Vishnu Dutas, the direct associates of Lord Vishnu, 4-handed and nicely decorated, he could understand who they were. But for the time being, he was puzzled. But simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, the Hare Krishna mantra, he could satisfy the uncommon guests who had all of a sudden arrived before him. The chanting of the holy name of the Lord is perfect. Even though one does not know how to please Lord Vishnu or his associates, simply by sincerely chanting the holy name of the Lord, everything becomes perfect. A devotee, therefore, either in danger or in happiness, constantly chants the Hare Krishna mantra. When he is in danger, he is immediately relieved, and when he is in a position to see Lord Vishnu or his associates directly, by chanting this Mahamantra, he can please the Lord. This is the absolute nature of the Mahamantra. Either in danger or in happiness, it can be chanted without limitation. Text 22. Dhruva Maharaj was always absorbed in thinking of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. His heart was full with Krishna. When the 2 confidential servants of the Supreme Lord, who were named Nanda and Sunanda, approached him, smiling happily, Dhruva stood with folded hands, bowing humbly. They then addressed him as follows. Purport. In this verse, the word Pushkaranabha Samatau is significant. Krishna, or Lord Vishnu, is known for his lotus eyes, lotus navel, lotus feet, and lotus palms. Here he is called Pushkaranabha, which means the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has a lotus navel. And Samatao means two confidential or very obedient servants. The materialistic way of life differs from the spiritual way of life, in that one is disobedience and the other is obedience to the will of the Supreme Lord. All living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and they are supposed to be always agreeable. All living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and they are supposed to be always agreeable to the order of the Supreme Person. That is perfect oneness. In the Vaikuntha world, all the living entities are in oneness with the Supreme Godhead, because they never defy His orders. Here in the material world, however, they are not samatha, agreeable, but always asamatha, disagreeable. This human form of life is a chance to be trained to be agreeable to the orders of the Supreme Lord. To bring about this training in society is the mission of the Krishna consciousness movement. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, you have to turn off the sound. Turn down the sound. Okay? Hare Krishna. To bring about this training in society is the mission of the Krishna consciousness movement. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the laws of material nature are very strict. No one can overcome the stringent laws of material nature. But one who becomes a surrendered soul and agrees to the order of the Supreme Lord can easily overcome those stringent laws. The example of Dhruva Maharaj is very fitting. Simply by becoming agreeable to the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and by developing love of Godhead, Dhruva got the chance to personally meet the confidential servants of Lord Vishnu face to face. What was possible for Dhruva Maharaj is possible for everyone. Anyone who very seriously engages in devotional service can obtain, in due course of time, the same perfection of the human form of life. Text 23. Nanda and Sunanda, the two confidential associates of Lord Vishnu, said, "Dear King, let there be all good fortune unto you. Please attentively hear what we shall say. When you were only 5 years old, you underwent severe austerities, and you thereby greatly satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead." Purport. What was possible for Dhruva Maharaj is possible for anyone. Any 5-year-old child can be trained, and within a very short time his life will become successful by realization of Krishna consciousness. Unfortunately, this training is lacking all over the world. It is necessary for the leaders of the Krishna consciousness movement to start educational institutions in different parts of the world to train children starting at the age of 5 years. Thus such children will not become hippies or spoiled children of society. Rather, they can all become devotees of the Lord. The face of the world will then change automatically. Text 24. We are representatives of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Creator of the whole universe, who carries in his hand the bow named Shanga. We have been specifically deputed to take you to the spiritual world. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that simply by knowing His transcendental pastimes, whether within this material world or in the spiritual world, anyone who understands factually who He is, how He appears, and how He acts, can be immediately fit for transfer to the spiritual world. This principle, stated in the Bhagavad Gita, operated in the case of King Dhruva. Throughout his life, he tried to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by austerity and penances. Now, the mature result was that Dhruva Maharaj became fit to be carried to the spiritual world, accompanied by the confidential associates of the Lord. Text 25. To achieve Vishnu Loka is very difficult, but by your austerity you have conquered. Even the great rishis and demigods cannot achieve this position. Simply to see the supreme abode, the Vishnu planet, the sun and moon, and all the other planets, stars, lunar mansions, and solar systems are circumambulating it. Now please come. You are welcome to go there. Purport. Even in this material world, the so-called scientists, philosophers, and mental speculators strive to merge into the spiritual sky, but they can never go there. But a devotee, by executing devotional service, not only realizes what the spiritual world actually is, but factually goes there to live an eternal life of bliss and knowledge. The Krishna consciousness movement is so potent that by adopting these principles of life and developing love of God, one can very easily go back home, back to Godhead. Here, the practical example is the case of Dhruva Maharaj. While the scientist and philosopher go to the moon, but are disappointed in their attempts to stay there and live, the devotee makes an easy journey to other planets and ultimately goes back to Godhead. Devotees have no interest in seeing other planets, but while going back to Godhead, they see all of them as passing phases, just as one who is going to a distant place passes through many small stations. 26. Dear King Dhruva, neither your forefathers nor anyone else before you ever achieved such a transcendental planet. The planet known as Vishnu Loka, where Lord Vishnu personally resides, is the highest of all. It is worshipable by the inhabitants of all other planets within the universe. Please come with us and live there eternally. Purport. When Dhruva Maharaj went to perform austerities, he was very determined to achieve a post never dreamed of by his forefathers. His father was Uttanapad, his grandfather was Manu, and his great-grandfather was Lord Brahma. So Dhruva wanted a kingdom even greater than Lord Brahma could achieve. And he requested Narada Muni to give him facility for achieving it. The associates of Lord Vishnu reminded him that not only his forefathers, but everyone else before him was unable to attain Vishnu Loka, the planet where Lord Vishnu resides. This is because everyone within this material world is either a karmi, a jnani, or a yogi, but there are hardly any pure devotees. The transcendental planet known as Vishnu Loka is especially meant for devotees, not for karmis, jnanis, or yogis. Great rishis or demigods can hardly approach Brahmaloka, and as stated in Bhagavad Gita, Brahmaloka is not a permanent residence. Lord Brahma's duration of life is so long that it is difficult to estimate even the duration of one day of his life. And yet Lord Brahma also dies, as do the residents of his planet. Bhagavad Gita 8:16 says, Abrahma bhuvana loka, punar arvatanorjuna. Except for those who go to Vishnu Loka, everyone is subjected to the four principles of material life, namely birth, death, old age, and disease. The Lord says, Yadgatva na nivartante taddhama paramam mama. The planet from which once going, when no one returns, is my supreme abode. Bhagavad Gita 15:6. Dhruva Maharaj was reminded, you are going in our company to that planet from which no one returns to this material world. Material scientists are attempting to go to the moon and other planets, but they cannot imagine going to the topmost planet, Brahmaloka, for it is beyond their imagination. By material calculation, one who travels at the speed of light would take 40,000 years to reach the topmost planet. By mechanical processes, we are unable to reach the topmost planet of this universe. But the process called Bhakti Yoga, as executed by Maharaj Dhruva, can give one the facility not only to reach other planets within this universe, but also to reach beyond this universe to the Vishnu Loka planets. We have outlined this in our small booklet, Easy Journey to Other Planets. Text 27. O Immortal One, this unique airplane has been sent by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is worshipped by select prayers and who is the chief of all living entities. You are quite worthy to board such a plane. Purport. According to astronomical calculation, along with the pole star, there is another star which is called Shishumara, where Lord Vishnu, who is in charge of the maintenance of this material world, resides. Shishumara, or Dhruva Loka, can never be reached by anyone but the Vaishnavas, as will be described by the following shlokas. The associates of Lord Vishnu brought the special airplane for Dhruva Maharaj, and then informed him that Lord Vishnu had especially sent this airplane. The Vaikuntha airplane does not move by mechanical arrangement. There are three processes for moving in outer space. One of the processes is known to the modern scientists. It is called Kapota Bahi. Ka means outer space, and Pota means ship. There is a second process, also called Kapota Vahi. Kapota means pigeon. One can train pigeons to carry one into outer space. The third process is very subtle. It is called Akasha Patana. This Akasha Patana system is also material. Just as the mind can fly anywhere one likes without mechanical arrangement, so the Akasha Patana airplane can fly at the speed of mind. Beyond this Akasha Patana system is the Vaikuntha process, which is completely spiritual. The airplane sent by Lord Vishnu to carry Dhruva Maharaj to Shishumara was a completely spiritual, transcendental airplane. Material scientists can neither see such vehicles nor imagine how they fly in the air. The material scientist has no information about the spiritual sky, although it is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Parastasmat tu bhavonyo. Bhagavad Gita 8:20. Text 28. Maitreya, the great sage Maitreya, continued. Maharaj Dhruva was very dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When he heard the sweet speeches of the Lord's chief associates in the Vaikuntha planet, he immediately took his sacred bath, dressed himself with suitable ornaments, and performed his daily spiritual duties. Thereafter, he offered his respectful obeisances to the great sages present there and accepted their blessings. Purport. We should mark how dutiful Dhruva Maharaj was in his devotional service, even at the time he left this material world. He was constantly alert in the performance of devotional duties. Every devotee should take his bath early in the morning and decorate his body with tilak. In Kali Yuga, one can hardly acquire gold or jeweled ornaments, but the 12 tilak marks on the body are sufficient as auspicious decorations to purify the body. Since Dhruva Maharaj was living at that time at Badarikashram, there were other great sages there. He did not become puffed up because the airplane sent by Lord Vishnu was waiting for him. As a humble Vaishnava, he accepted blessings from all the sages before riding on the airplane brought by the chief of the Vaikuntha associates. Text 29. Before getting aboard, Dhruva Maharaj worshipped the airplane, circumambulated it, and also offered obeisances to the associates of Vishnu. In the meantime, he became as brilliant and illuminating as molten gold. He was thus completely prepared to board the airplane. Maybe we can turn on that fan? There you go. George, Transcendental Intelligence. He's a doer. Thanks, George. Purport. In the absolute world, the plane, the associates of Lord Vishnu, and Lord Vishnu himself are all spiritual. There is no material contamination. In quality, everything there is one. As Lord Vishnu is worshipable, so also are his associates, his paraphernalia, his airplane, and his abode. For everything of Vishnu's is as good as Lord Vishnu. Dhruva Maharaj knew all this very well as a pure Vaishnava, and he offered his respects to the associates and to the plane before riding in it. But in the meantime, his body changed into spiritual existence, and therefore it was illuminating like molten gold. In this way he also became one with the other paraphernalia of Vishnu Loka. Mayavadi philosophers cannot imagine how this oneness can be achieved, even in different varieties. Their idea of oneness is that there is no variety. Therefore they have become impersonalists. As Shishumara, Vishnu Loka, or Dhruva Loka are completely different from this material world, so a Vishnu temple within this world is also completely different from this material world. As soon as we are in a temple, we should know very well that we are situated differently from the material world. In the temple, Lord Vishnu, his throne, his room, and all of the things associated with the temple are transcendental. The three modes, Sattva Guna, Raja Guna, and Tama Guna, have no entrance into the temple. It is said, therefore, that to live in the forest is in the mode of goodness, to live in the city is in the mode of passion, and to live in a brothel, liquor shop, or slaughterhouse is in the mode of ignorance. But to live in the temple is as worshipable as Lord Vishnu or Krishna. Text 30. When Dhruva Maharaj was attempting to get on the transcendental plane, he saw death personified approach him, the grim reaper. Not caring for death, however, he took advantage of the opportunity to put his feet on the head of death, and thus he got up on the airplane, which was as big as a house. Purport. To take the passing away of a devotee and the passing away of a non-devotee as one and the same is completely misleading. While ascending the transcendental airplane, Dhruva Maharaj suddenly saw death personified before him, but he was not afraid. Instead of death's giving him trouble, Dhruva Maharaj took advantage of death's presence and put his feet on the head of death. People with a poor fund of knowledge do not know the difference between the death of a devotee and the death of a non-devotee. In this connection, an example can be given. A cat carries its kittens in its mouth, and it also carries a rat in its mouth. Superficially, the catching of the rat and the kitten appear to be one and the same, but actually they are not. When the cat catches the rat in its mouth, it means death for the rat. Whereas when the cat catches the kitten enjoys it. When Dhruva Maharaj boarded the airplane, he took advantage of the arrival of death personified, who came to offer him obeisances. Putting his feet on the head of death, he got up on the unique airplane, which is described here to be as big as a house, griham. There are many other similar instances in Bhagavata literature. It is stated that when Kardama Muni created an airplane to carry his wife Devahuti all over the universe, the airplane was like a big city, carrying many houses, lakes, and gardens. Modern scientists have manufactured big airplanes, but they are packed with passengers who experience all sorts of discomfort while riding in them. Material scientists are not even perfect in manufacturing a material airplane. In order to compare to the plane used by Kardama, or the plane sent from Vishnuloka, they must manufacture an airplane equipped like a big city, with all the comforts of life, lakes, gardens, parks, etc. The plane must be able to fly in outer space, and hover, and visit all of the planets. If they invent such a plane, they will not have to make different space stations for fuel to travel into outer space. Such a plane would have an unlimited supply of fuel, or, like the plane from Vishnuloka, would fly without it. Text 31. At that time, drums and kettle drums resounded from the sky. The chief Gandharvas began to sing, and other demigods showered flowers like torrents of rain upon Dhruva Maharaj. Text 32. Dhruva was seated in the transcendental airplane, which was just about to start, when he remembered his poor mother, Suniti. He thought to himself, how shall I go alone to the Vaikuntha planet and leave behind my poor mother? Purport. Dhruva had a feeling of obligation to his mother. It was Suniti who had given him the clue which had now enabled him to be personally carried to the Vaikuntha planet by the associates of Lord Vishnu. He now remembered her and wanted to take her with him. Actually, Dhruva's Maharaja's mother, Suniti, was his Pata Pradarshika Guru. Pata Pradarshika Guru means the Guru or the spiritual master who shows the way. Such a Guru is sometimes called Shiksha Guru. Although Narada Muni was his Diksha Guru, initiating spiritual master, Suniti, his mother, was the first who gave him instruction on how to achieve the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is the duty of the Shiksha Guru or Diksha Guru to instruct the disciple in the right way, and it depends on the disciple to execute the process. According to Shastra conjunctions, there is no difference between Shiksha Guru and Diksha Guru, and generally the Shiksha Guru later on becomes the Diksha Guru. Suniti, however, being a woman, and specifically his mother, could not become Dhruva Maharaja's Diksha Guru. Still, he was not less obliged to Suniti. There was no question of carrying Narada Muni to Vaikuntha Loka, but Dhruva Maharaj thought of his mother. Whatever plan the Supreme Personality of Godhead contemplates immediately fructifies. Similarly, a devotee who is completely dependent on the Supreme Lord can also fulfill his wishes by the grace of the Lord. The Lord fulfills his wishes independently, but a devotee fulfills his wishes simply by being dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, as soon as Dhruva Maharaj thought of his poor mother, he was assured by the associates of Vishnu that Suniti was also going to Vaikuntha Loka in another plane. Dhruva Maharaj had thought that he was going alone to Vaikuntha Loka, leaving behind his mother, which was not very auspicious, because people would criticize him for going alone to Vaikuntha Loka and not carrying with him Suniti, who had given him so much. But Dhruva also considered that he was not personally the Supreme. Therefore, if Krishna fulfilled his desires, only then would it be possible. Krishna could immediately understand his mind, and he told Dhruva that his mother was also going with him. This incident proves that a pure devotee like Dhruva Maharaj can fulfill all his desires. By the grace of the Lord, he becomes exactly like the Lord, and thus, whenever he thinks of anything, his wish is immediately fulfilled. I mean, that's a good reason for going back to Godhead. Yeah? Text 33. The great associates of Vaikuntha Loka, Nanda and Sunanda, could understand the mind of Dhruva Maharaj, and thus they showed him that his mother, Suniti, was going forward in another plane. Purport. This incident proves that the Shiksha or Diksha guru who has a disciple who strongly executes devotional service, like Dhruva Maharaj, can be carried by the disciple, even though the instructor is not as advanced. Although Suniti was an instructor to Dhruva Maharaj, she could not go to the forest because she was a woman, nor could she execute austerities and penances as Dhruva Maharaj did. Still, Dhruva Maharaj was able to take his mother with him. Similarly, Prahlad Maharaj also delivered his atheistic father, Hiranyakashipu. The conclusion is that a disciple or an offspring who is a very strong devotee can carry with him to Vaikuntha Loka either his father, mother, or Shiksha or Diksha Guru. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say, if I could perfectly deliver even one soul back home, back to Godhead, I would think my mission, propagating Krishna consciousness, to be successful. The Krishna consciousness movement is spreading now all over the world, and sometimes I think that even though I am crippled in many ways, if one of my disciples becomes as strong as Dhruva Maharaj, then he will be able to carry me with him to Vaikuntha Loka. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Haribo. Supreme humility. He's taking us all back, and he's praying that one of us will take him back. Oh, man, it's too much. Too much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Text 34. While Dhruva Maharaj was passing through space, he gradually saw all the planets of the solar system. And on the path he saw all the demigods in their airplane showering flowers upon him like rain. Purport. There is a Vedic version. Kasmin nu bhagavo bigyate sarvam idam bigyatam babati iti Mundaka Upanishad 1.3, which means that by knowing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everything becomes known to the devotee. Similarly, by going to the planet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can know all the other planetary systems on the path to Vaikuntha. We should remember that Dhruva Maharaj's body was different from our bodies. While boarding the Vaikuntha airplane, his body changed to a completely spiritual golden hue. No one can surpass the higher planets in a material body. But when one gets a spiritual body, he can travel not only to the higher planetary system of this material world, but even to the still higher planetary system known as Vaikuntha Loka. It is well known that Narada Muni travels everywhere, both in the spiritual and material worlds. It should be noted that while Suniti was going to Vaikuntha Loka, she also changed her body into spiritual form. Like Sri Suniti, every mother should train her child to become a devotee like Dhruva Maharaj. Suniti instructed her son, even at the age of 5 years, to be unattached to worldly affairs, and to go to the forest to search out the Supreme Lord. She never desired that her son remain at home comfortably without ever undertaking austerities and penances to achieve the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Every mother, like Suniti, must take care of her son and train him to become a brahmachari from the age of 5 years, or from whatever age they figure it out. I got a little carried away, I forget where I was. Yes. The benefit will be that if her son becomes a strong devotee like Dhruva, certainly not only will he be transferred back home, back to Godhead, but she will also be transferred with him to the spiritual world, even though she may be unable to undergo austerities and penances in executing devotional service. There you go, extra little inspiration there. Text 35. Dhruva Maharaj thus surpassed the 7 planetary systems of the great sages who were known as Saptarishi. Beyond that region, he achieved the transcendental situation of permanent life in the planet where Lord Vishnu lives. Purport. Where am I? Yes. Am I on 36? 35, sorry. If you push the wrong place, you go to another place, just like in the material world. Push the wrong things, you go to the wrong place. Hare Krishna. Translation. Dhruva Maharaj thus surpassed the 7 planetary systems of the great sages who were known as Saptarishi. Beyond that region, he achieved the transcendental situation of permanent life in the planet where Lord Vishnu lives. Purport. The airplane was piloted by the 2 chief associates of Lord Vishnu, namely Sunanda and Nanda. Only such spiritual astronauts can pilot their airplane beyond the 7 planets and arrive in the region of eternal blissful life. It is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita also, Parastasmat Tubhavonya, that beyond this planetary system begins the spiritual sky, where everything is permanent and blissful. The planets there are known as Vishnu Loka or Vaikuntha Loka. Only there can one get an eternal blissful life of knowledge. Below Vaikuntha Loka is the material universe, where Lord Brahma and others in Brahma Loka can live until the annihilation of this universe. But that life is not permanent. That is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Abrahma Bhuvana Loka. Even if one goes to the topmost planet, one cannot achieve eternal life. Only by arriving in Vaikuntha Loka can one live an eternally blissful life. Text 36. The self-effulgent Vaikuntha planets, by whose illumination alone all the illuminating planets within this material world give off reflected light, cannot be reached by those who are not merciful to other living entities. I shall repeat that. The self-effulgent Vaikuntha planets, by whose illumination alone all the illuminating planets within this material world give off reflected light, cannot be reached by those who are not merciful to other living entities. Only persons who constantly engage in the welfare activities for other living entities can reach the Vaikuntha planets. Purport. Here is a description of 2 aspects of the Vaikuntha planets. The first is that in the Vaikuntha sky there is no need of the sun and moon. This is confirmed by the Upanishads as well as Bhagavad Gita. Natapa sachite suryo, nashashanko napavakaha. In the spiritual world, the Vaikuntha lokas are themselves illuminated. There's therefore no need of sun, moon, or electric light. It is in fact the illumination of the Vaikuntha lokas which is reflected in the material sky. Only by this reflection are the suns and material universes illuminated. After the illumination of the sun, all the stars and moons are illuminated. In other words, all the luminaries in the material sky borrow illumination from Vaikuntha Loka. From this material world, however, people can be transferred to the Vaikuntha Loka if they incessantly engage in welfare activities for all other living entities. Such incessant welfare activities can really be performed only in Krishna consciousness. There is no philanthropic work within this material world but Krishna consciousness that can engage a person 24 hours a day. A Krishna conscious being is always engaged in planning how to take all of suffering humanity back home, back to Godhead. Even if one is not successful in reclaiming all the fallen souls back to Godhead, still, because he is Krishna conscious, his path to Vaikuntha Loka is open. He personally becomes qualified to enter the Vaikuntha Lokas, and if anyone follows such a devotee, he also enters into Vaikuntha Loka. Others who engage in envious activities are known as karmis. Karmis are envious of one another. Simply for sense gratification, they can kill thousands of innocent animals. Jnanis are not as sinful as karmis, but they do not try to reclaim others back to Godhead. They perform austerities for their own liberation. Yogis are also engaged in self-aggrandizement by trying to attain mystic powers. But devotees, Vaishnavas, who are servants of the Lord, come forward in the actual field of work in Krishna consciousness to reclaim fallen souls. Only Krishna conscious persons are eligible to enter into the spiritual world. That is clearly stated in this verse and is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, wherein the Lord says that there is no one dearer to him than those who preach the gospel of Bhagavad Gita to the world. Text 37. Persons who are peaceful, equipoised, cleansed, and purified, and who know the art of pleasing all of the living entities, keep friendship only with devotees of the Lord. They alone can very easily achieve the perfection of going back home, back to Godhead. Purport. The description of this verse fully indicates that only devotees are eligible to enter into the kingdom of Godhead. The first point stated is that devotees are peaceful, for they have no demands for their personal sense gratification. They are simply dedicated to the service of the Lord. Karmis cannot be peaceful because they have immense demands for sense gratification. As for jnanis, they cannot be peaceful because they are too busy trying to attain liberation or merge into the existence of the Supreme. Similarly, yogis are also restless to get mystic power. But a devotee is peaceful because he is fully surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thinks of himself as completely helpless. Just as a child feels complete peace in depending on the parent, so a devotee is completely peaceful, for he depends on the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A devotee is equipoised. He sees everyone on the same transcendental platform. A devotee knows that although a conditioned soul has a particular type of body according to his past fruitive activities, factually everyone is part of the Supreme Lord. A devotee sees all living entities with spiritual vision and does not discriminate on the platform of the bodily concept of life. Such qualities develop only in the association of devotees. Without the association of devotees, one cannot advance in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, we have established the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Factually, whoever lives in this society automatically develops Krishna consciousness. Devotees are dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is only dear to devotees. On this platform only can one make progress in Krishna consciousness. Persons in Krishna consciousness persons in Krishna consciousness or devotees of the Lord can please everyone, as is evident in the Krishna consciousness movement. We invite everyone, without discrimination. We request everyone to sit down and chant the Hare Krishna mantra and take as much prasad as we can supply. And thus, everyone is pleased with us. This is the qualification. Sarva bhutanu rupanjana. As for purification, no one can be more pure than devotees. Anyone who once utters the name of Vishnu immediately becomes purified, inside and outside. Yaksmaret pundarikaksham. Since a devotee constantly chants the Hare Krishna mantra, no contamination of the material world can touch him. He is therefore actually purified. Muchi hai, shuchi hai, Hare Krishna bhaji. It is said that even a cobbler, or a person born in the family of a cobbler, can be elevated to the position of a brahmana, shuchi, if he takes to Krishna consciousness. Any person who is purely Krishna conscious and who engages in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra is the purest in the whole universe. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, so we'll stop there, the reading. I got 13 minutes before I gotta go. Hey, George is like biting at the bit. He wants to get this mic. Give him the mic.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Sorry. So the question is, we have Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, was given a pole star. He was given his own place that even Brahma wasn't allowed to go in there. And when Brahma sleeps, the pole star there, it's still there. And after the dissolution, it's still not destroyed. Then why did Dhruva Maharaj want to go to Vaitakunta if he had his own place?
Well, if we remember from the reading, Dhruvaloka is not a material planet. It's a spiritual planet. And when the whole material universe is dissolved, Dhruvaloka stays there. Now, it's very interesting because when it comes time for the creation to be recreated after the full annihilation, there's an annihilation after after the night of Brahma. There's an annihilation after the end of the Manu, the reign of one Manu Avatar. And there are also other minor things that happen in the history of the creation. But at the end of the creation, then everything gets, wound back up into Mahavishnu. But the pole star stays the same. It stays right there. It doesn't annihilate. Therefore, it's not that Dhruva Maharaj didn't want to go to a Vaikuntha planet which was going to stay there forever, because the pole star does stay there forever. And when it's again wound back out, when it comes time for Brahma to, engineer it, he's given everything. He's given all the energy, he's given all the souls, he's given the previous karma. In other words, the destinations are already there. But he knows where to put everything, and the reference point is the pole star. Hare Krishna. Yes, Uncle John.
Since Nana's not here, I'll step in for her. I had a pretty cool thing happen today, and we're talking about Dhruva Maharaj's mother, and how my mom she had something wrong with her eyes. So I was like, we thought maybe she had a tumor or something. So I told her before she went, I said, just say Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So she goes, I don't know that mantra. I'm saying, well, just say Hare Krishna. You don't have to do the whole thing. It'll heal you. She goes, okay, I'll do it. So she's like, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So she called me back about 10 minutes later, and she goes, "Oh my God," she goes, "my ears were popping and my head was popping, and there was like this light in the room, and she goes, I felt so light." And it was like, I was like, whoa, I've never felt. I was like, wow, Mom, that's awesome. She goes, "I can't believe it. It's like some kind of vibration that cuts right through you." So they gave me a lot of. It inspired me. It was like that really was powerful. That somebody that has never. Somebody who's never experienced anything about it, except what her son was saying, and did it, and she just had this awesome experience. So I thought that would increase everybody's, faith a little bit. That's it.
I want to say that, I've been around this movement for 46 years, and we've seen a few things. I also had a very special experience with my mother, which you can read about in Back to Godhead magazine in the 1999 January-February issue. It's called A Storybook Ending. I won't go into the details of that. You can read it to find out. But this idea that was given in the purports that pure devotees get some special compensation at the end, especially when Dhruva Maharaja thought about his, mother. And we've had quite a few devotees who, it's like, according to witnesses and according to symptoms, have had very transcendental experiences as they're passing away from the world. There's one in that just stuck in my mind, and that's Gauri Dasi. I don't know if you know Gauri Dasi. My god sister. She was a very, very surrendered soul to Srila Prabhupada. She was one of the great book distributors in the history of our movement. She was known to distribute unbelievable numbers of books and meet so many people and make them devotees. She was an amazing person. And at the end, she got cancer, and she went to Vrindavan to leave her body. And then she got cured, and she went back to distribute books again. And then finally she went back to Vrindavan again, and as she was leaving, the room became very far out, and the devotees that were there witnessed it. She said, "Oh, Lord Chaitanya, you come." Just like that. And then she left. And all the devotees were like in transcendental ecstasy. So these are not stories. This is not just something to make us feel better, or give us some hope against hope or anything. This is very, very common. The devotees have special experiences when they go back, when they leave their bodies. And not only that, but even if you can't see those particular things, how many devotees have had other devotees surrounding them, chanting? We saw a video of your spiritual master leaving the body, surrounded by devotees. Govinda Maharaj was just yelling the Hare Krishna mantra into his ear, like he couldn't have forgotten Krishna even if he wanted to, which he didn't. But it's leaving the body is very difficult for everyone. It doesn't make any difference who you are. I was in the room when Prabhupada left. It's not an easy thing to leave the body. He showed us how to leave the body perfectly by chanting Hare Krishna, but still, it's difficult to leave the body. So we shouldn't expect that our body's going to turn golden and we're going to jump on the Vaikuntha airplane and go back to Godhead. We'd have to do some special thing like Dhruva Maharaj did at 5 years old. But we're in this movement, and this movement's meant to take us back to Godhead, and we're going back to Godhead. And once you actually know that, then you become free, completely free, and then you can help others, and you can give others a taste for Krishna consciousness. And as it's said in one of the purports, that devotees who are always thinking and trying to help others come to Krishna consciousness. That's it. end of the road in this material world. Dhruva Maharaj ki... Oh, wait, we have someone. Christina?
Well, I didn't want to say it on the thing, but as we were reading, I saw a blue light.
You saw a blue light?
I saw a blue light. I don't know what that means.
An or around him?
No, it was right in front of me in the book. I don't know.
It means that the book is a literary incarnation of Krishna. And we can, it's not that we see Krishna just, everyone says Krishna just all of a sudden like that. But we see different manifestations that give us faith and give us, especially in the beginning. Rupa Goswami describes this. He calls it shadow attachment. That when you're in the association of devotees, and especially here, this special atmosphere where we're all hearing the Bhagavatam together like this, then we get we feel something better or special, even that we don't feel in the ordinary course of our days. It's like we're catapulted, We get a little acceleration or something, a little, what do they call it? Turbocharge, turbo, what are they? Fuel injected carburetor, our hearts become fuel injected and we can taste things that are, special. And we don't always keep that all the time, but especially when we're new or when we reach a time in our life when we need some special help, Krishna will come and give us the special warmth, the special taste. Or we may see some light, or we may see some physical, something to encourage us that we're doing the right thing. It's called shadow attachment. So keep doing it. That's the message. Keep doing it. Dhruva Maharaj ki jai. Vaikuntha Loka ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Thank you to all of you out in cyberspace. We got 27 pages done this morning, and we got a little late start, and I was up a little late. So tonight I'm going to be a good boy and get rest on time, so I can get up early and get some more pages out there. Chaitanya Charitamrita. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. See you tomorrow night, same place, same station. Hare Krishna.